Hey all, welcome back to another video. Today we are doing a video basically detailing how my parents went about becoming millionaires in their own right. In other words, each of them by their own individual assets became millionaires. Meanwhile, they were raising two boys, and I just don't know how it's done. A lot of friends of mine have expressed common complaints such as getting no sleep, having no time to play with their kids, and things of that nature. Things that I'm just like, I don't know how my parents did all of it. So anyways, my parents were able to achieve a lot in life and raise us at the same time. So today we're going to be going into how they went about doing that, and they really did it effortlessly, or from my perspective, I didn't see them sweat, so I don't know what they're going to say either. So I figured this would be a very interesting video. Whatever you guys learn, I'm going to be learning it as well. So let's just go ahead and get right into the footage. Today we're back with the parents, and everybody wants to fashion a life for themselves where they, can spend time with their parents. And I figured what better way to do that than to exploit them once again for content. And you guys like hearing from the parents, and they've got a lot of insights that I don't have myself. Sometimes I'm sitting there trying to write a video and I just clearly don't have these insights. So today what I wanted to talk to them about was going to school with kids and also traveling for work. So these are things that I haven't personally experienced, but they are things that throughout my childhood, I experienced a lot of that through them. And when people talk to me about the difficulties of, having kids and traveling for work when they have kids, it just kind of, when they tell me that they can't do it, in other words, it doesn't really register with me as something that's, the true reality of the world. So here to explain that for you guys are the parents, and if you guys want to, intro, kind of maybe your stories, because you guys both have two different sides of the coin of the two topics that we're talking about today, whatever you guys have for the people.
Okay, well, maybe we can start with the travel first, because I didn't do that as much as Kenny did that, but there was a stint of time where I did a lot of traveling, which is in the .com era when I started to work for homegrocer.com, and then it was bought out by Webvan. And when that occurred, there was a time where we needed to get our IT systems to convert it over to their IT systems. And so I had to travel down to California a lot. So I would actually fly down to San Francisco on Sunday evening and return on Friday. And I did that for like 4 months in the time period we were converting the homegrocer.com system to the Webvan system. So it seemed, it was almost seamless, because when I talked to you and KB about it later on in life, you guys don't even remember me doing that.
Right.
So because Kenny was there, and things are just still happening with him being there, and it's almost like you guys didn't even miss me, because he just took up the slack so easily. And so that was really my stint with traveling. And so I think it's because we kept you guys on routine that you didn't notice that, okay, mom is disappearing for weeks at a time for 4 months, and we don't even know where she is, because Kenny just took the slack where I was taking you to football practice. He would have to come home early and get you guys and take you to the football practice, which he was actually coaching himself anyways, but he just got more engaged. He just took over where my task was. And,
right.
So.
Yeah, that's funny you say the whole on routine thing, because when you would leave, we'd become much more on routine. This tyrant right here. I'm just kidding. Help. No, I'm just kidding. But Dad, if you have anything for the people.
For the travel, your travel is much.
Yeah, so from a travel perspective, I traveled an awful lot. I was a senior manager, group manager at Microsoft. And so I had people in North Carolina, I had people in Charlotte, I had people in Washington, or employees. And then I had people internationally in Japan. And so I would have to go travel in all of those places and do reviews and quarterly updates, and whenever someone was hired or let go, or a myriad of things where we would go. Plus, we had to do managerial retreats. So I did a lot of travel in your formative years. The question, as I'm hearing it, is how can you travel and still raise children? Is that the real question?
Yes, essentially.
Okay, so it's not about just the travel and the kids. It's about the plan. And so we knew we had to travel because that was what was coming up from a work perspective. And so we sat down ahead of time and we planned it out. And so before Carolyn would ever go to Cali for her trips, and before I would go to wherever the heck I was going, because I was going everywhere, we would say, okay, here's a schedule for the next 6 months. Here's where I'll be. Here's where I won't be. Here's when I could be available. And then she would put that all, and then similar to the taxes spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. And then I would put my travel itinerary together. And then sometimes our travel conflicted. And so we would have to go to work and say, I can't travel this day because my wife's going to be gone or something, right? And then so we would get that all squared away. And then after that, it was just a matter of going out and doing it. We never had really Leave It to Beaver. Maybe that reference is too old. We never had, family time, sit down, hey, children, your parents are going to be going to travel conversations with you guys, because quite frankly, we didn't think they were necessary, right? Like you guys had your own schedules. Like you guys had stuff to do every day, all day. And so your schedules were not impacted, and so therefore there was nothing to tell you that you had to do differently, because you guys did the same things regardless of if I was gone or if Carolyn was gone. So travel for me was easy, and travel for me was fun, and it was seamless.
Right, Miss Calder. So yeah, that just threw me off. You got to call in the middle of the video. So yeah, that kind of. What were we even talking about? That threw me.
So we were talking about travel and the education part. I guess the education part.
But before that, right?
Before we get to that,
what I was saying was, we left you guys on schedule,
yes.
And so we would travel and we would coordinate our schedules, and then that was a parent thing to do. That wasn't a child thing to do, right? You didn't have to be involved in that conversation, and then your schedule remained the same. You knew you had to go to school. You knew you had whatever sport it was, practice. You knew you had to do your homework. You knew there was some gaming time in there. You had to eat dinner, right? On the weekends, we were going to the pro club to play hoop, or we were going to a game, or we were going to a tournament or something. And so your schedules were not impacted one iota because, well, except for when we went to Japan. When we went to Japan, we scheduled you guys to go to Japan. And so... Right,
it was fun.
It turned into a family trip to Japan because I had to be over there as a manager swap, and so I was managing in Japan for a number of months, and you guys came to visit, right? And so your schedules just didn't change,
right? And there was never this like traumatic drop off of the parents being absent. It was just kind of for me it was kind of a new normal. So I mean. Right now, with the whole pandemic and everything, all the protesting, everything that's going on, it's like you just eventually settle into a new normal. I mean, even with my military experience, going to basic training, you just settle into a new normal. With anything in life, you kind of pivot and you settle into a new normal. So that was my experience of it. But when you guys were going to school, when were you going to school? Because I don't remember much about. My mom going to school. I just wanted to talk about that.
So I went to school right out of high school, but then I was also married at that time too.
Okay.
And so young love, separation isn't good on young love. So what ended up happening is I dropped out at PLU and I followed your dad to Germany. So school sort of just continued just for a long time for me. And so when I got to Germany, I was going to University of Maryland at that time, and I was thinking, okay, I'll finish up there. But of course, he got shipped off to another duty station, and I think that was at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. So that was kind of easy because then I continued to go to University of Maryland there. But at that time, you guys weren't here. Then KB, when we were in Fort Belvoir, he was born there. And so then I had to deal with a child and going to school and then going to work. And so then it got really busy for me. I continued to go to like night schools and during that time, that every time we moved somewhere, I just go to a different school and I was just continually trying to, okay, I'm going to finish my bachelor's degree, even though we keep moving. So I probably have a doctorate by now. I have so many credits. But eventually we got back home after 10 years of him being in the service, and you came to existence when we got back home. So now I have 2 children, and I still haven't finished school.
It's getting juicy. I already know the ending, but it seems insurmountable at this point in the story. Could you speak a little bit about maybe how that felt you're going through night school and you're going through, KB being born. So like you haven't had the birth of your best son yet.
Right.
So, just how that was.
Well, it's trying to raise a child and go to school and go to, I did work full time too during that time. And, have a relationship. It just became really busy. So, you get on a plan. You're like, okay, or you have a schedule. You have a schedule. And so your schedule gets really tight. But, I think I had that advantage of having your dad helping me parent the children. So he was just a really good dad. And so he would, when I say, okay, I need to study for this or these tests and stuff like that, he would just take over the duties of parenting, full time. And I think he was more engaged in parenting than I was during the time that I was going to school.
Okay.
So he just got really, involved in just parenting. So
okay, I'm actually legitimately interested in this because keep in mind I'm not alive right now during this part of the story because I don't know any of this stuff either. I'm learning this at the same time you guys are. So I mean, what was that like so you guys are in Virginia and you guys are parenting KB at the time, and
Dad's in the military.
Yeah, and you're in the military, and there's the night classes going on. What were the interactions like there as far as that time
between us or between the kids or all of it?
Just all of it.
Okay. So again, it's a plan, right? Like everything is a plan, right? You can't expect luck to win out over a longer period of time. So Carolyn and I, as she said, were married young. And the plan was always that Carolyn would do 4 years at PLU, Pacific Lutheran University in Tacoma, where she ran track. And then I would do 4 years in the military. And then I was going to extend for 2 more years. And Carolyn, this is my plan, right? This wasn't our plan. This was my plan. And then Carolyn was going to get a job. And I was going to still stay in the military for an additional 2 years. And then after she was good and solid in her job for 2 years, then I was going to get out of the military on the GI Bill. And then I was going to go to school for 4 years. And then we were both going to have our education. And while I was going to school, well, actually, I should have said, so when Carolyn first started going to school, what I was doing, because I was in the military, because I'm a year older than her, is I was giving her a stipend. I was giving her money so that she didn't have to work. Because the money that I was making in the military was providing everything for me, so I didn't need anything. So I'm like, here's $500. Just, don't sacrifice your grades. Like, get good grades. I can give you the money. I'm in the military. I don't have anything to spend my money on anyway.
Yeah, the chow hall
right. It's got everything, right? I got the gym. I got everything, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I had a whole bunch of dumb. I had a whole bunch of. No, I'm just playing. I had a whole bunch of friends in the in the military. We call them soldiers.
Wow.
Who would buy pizza and beer, and they would like spend all their money, and so I never really needed money. My point is, once those 6 years were up and I got out of the military, then my expectation was that then she was going to help me through my 4 years, and then that was that plan, right?
Okay.
That plan fell crazy when I got stationed in Germany after 1 year of her being at PLU.
How was there 1 year?
Can I please talk, ma'am?
Yeah.
Thank you. And so after 1 year, like I was stationed
right back to
the story.
right back to the 1 year, right? And then I was stationed in Germany.
We'll never know what really happened.
Well, so for about a 6-month period, we were separated while she was going to school.
Oh.
And then she called me and said, "Hey, dude, look, I need to be with you." And so we made that happen after a lot of discussion. And so the plan was always to get Carolyn her degree first and then to get me mine second, right? She started going to school. And then when she went to school, KB came along in Virginia. But it was easy because KB was a newborn, so he didn't know what was going on and not going on. And then I went back to Germany. And when I was back in Germany, then she was going to the University of Maryland in Germany. So then KB, like when I had hoop practice and when I was refereeing, I was a softball umpire, and I just took KB with me, right? If she was going to school or whatever. So KB would be running around the track and I'd be doing a softball game, and like every soldier and everybody knew who KB was. So I had like 1,000 babysitters on post because everybody knew who he was, right?
Right.
And so it wasn't a matter of, I'm the dad and Carolyn's at school and I can't, like, I could just go anywhere with him and I wouldn't even have to look at him, to tell you the truth, because there were so many people in the community. Right? It's like, oh, can we take, go ahead, right? So bottom line was, we always worked together and had it going. When you came along you came along after I got out of the military. Mm-hmm. And then Carolyn was in a position where she wanted to finish her degree. Excuse me. And so, we just planned to let her finish her degree. At that time, you were just a little bit too young, I think, when she started to like be in sports and stuff. But she wouldn't go to school until after work. And by the time she went to school, you guys were at home eating dinner and getting ready to go to bed. So you guys couldn't remember it because you were getting ready to go to bed for most of the time, right?
Right.
And so you're like, I don't remember it. Well, it's because you were asleep.
One of the other topics that I wanted to get into, which was the whole concept of it takes a village, which we talked about over the phone. But I think that it kind of speaks to, what's going on with the Black community with statistically speaking, you're more likely to be a single Black mother than other races. And obviously with this channel, we want to try to uplift the community and provide information that helps people out that, so that we can get out of the situations that, we disproportionately tend to be born into. So if you want to, I don't know if you want to talk on, what we talked about with, it takes a village and mm-hmm. things like that, where, like I'm saying, you're not always going to have this. And I can acknowledge that I was very fortunate to have just that solid family structure. But mm-hmm. like my dad was saying, takes that plan. So whether it's, grandma, friend, roommate, whatever, your church, it could be anything. So, but.
Yeah, so it takes a village, and what I was referring to was some folks might see this video and say, well, okay, Casey, your parents could do that because they were married, and because they were married, then they had each other to depend on, right? And that truly, as it's been shown time and time again, is a fallacy, because there's a whole bunch of people who've been married and it didn't work for them, and they end up getting divorced, or they end up not getting divorced but not going to school because they just argue and complain and a whole bunch of things. It all boils down to planning. You don't need to have a husband and a wife configuration to be successful about going to school after you have children. You can have parents who are going to help. You can have grandparents who are going to help. You can have uncles and aunts who are going to help. You can have some folks from your church who are going to help. And help is one thing. Everybody always says, and I hate this saying, but I understand what it means. Everybody says, oh, I'm 100. I'm 100. I'm going to give you 100. 100 to me is what I hear people say when they want something versus when they're giving something, right? And 100 means I'm 100% emotionally with you, but physically, I might be about 35, maybe 20, right? And so like when you actually need some help, you got to figure out who those people are in your circle, in your village, who will be there when you need them. So again, for you here now, as we're talking, you're talking with your parents. And if you needed something, you know you could come here. So that is your inner circle and that is your village, right? And so a single mom could find out who her true village is. And all you have to do is ask folks to do something for you several times. And if the people who are coming through are the people who will remain in your inner circle. And so this can be done. This plan can be done. And above all else, the thing that most people don't do is they don't tell people what they want to do, right? If you explain what you want to do before you start to do it and everybody knows what your plan is, then everybody can go ahead and get mentally ready for your plan. If you just say, hey, can you watch the kids today? And then you come back tomorrow and you say, hey, can you watch the kids today? And you come back and after about 5 days, they're going to say, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But if you say, I'm trying to get my degree, I'm going to this place, I'm going to get this degree, here's how long it's going to take, can you help me? And then let them commit, right? And then say, if you can't commit to these days, or can you commit to anything? And then after you get it all set up and planned out, then boom, you ink that plan in and that's what you go with. Along the way, a plan never works as it was designed out originally. So you modify, you morph, right? And you go for it, right? There's no excuse to not be able to do something that somebody else can do.
Right.
There's just no excuse. There's a way that you can get things done, and it's a positive way, and it's a way that you can be successful at it, right? And so you just have to be diligent about that and understand. And if you don't know how to do that, you have to go ask somebody. If you don't know how to invest, you got to watch Casey Burns Investing. So Casey can show you how to do stuff, right? And if Casey doesn't know how to do stuff, Casey asks people. Casey is the least shy person I know besides myself, right? You go on other channels and you talk to people and you go to their podcasts, and if you learn some information, you bring it back to your channel and you say, hey, guess what I learned today? I learned today this, right?
Right.
And that's the village, right? And so your village, you had someone call you just now. Because they're like, hey, today, what time are we going to get on this podcast, right? What are we going to do? And you're like, oh, dude, I'm talking to my parents right now, but I'm going to get with you, right?
Yeah.
That's all it takes, but it's so hard because, like, people especially in the African American community, feel like they can't express that in such a way because they feel inferior, right? It's like, that is not inferiority, that is superiority.
Yeah, and to speak to what he's talking about, I just had a phone call. I'll probably leave it in there because it kind of speaks to what we're talking about right now. There's a financial advisor that was on the phone, and I called him up and I asked him, I was asking him about cash value life insurance, because he said he basically proposed that I get that for tax advantages. And I never try to come across as some type of guru on this channel. If I don't know the information, then I will ask for it. I'll ask somebody who knows, somebody who's further advanced in their research than me. So one thing that I always tell people is that they'll ask me, or they're nervous to talk to me or whatever, because they're like, oh, you know so much more than I do. But to me, the biggest determinant of anyone's success, that in all of my experience that I've ever seen, is that curiosity and that ability to humble yourself and say, look, I don't know everything. And as you start to learn more, you realize that there's even more that you don't know. So there's no shame in looking for those things. So unless you guys have anything else on that, I was gonna move to a different topic.
Well, so I realized at a young age that my learning started when I realized all the things I didn't know. I thought at 20, at 21, I thought I knew a lot. I thought I was really smart, and I think I am pretty smart. But when I realized I didn't know stuff, and then I found out stuff, and then when I found that stuff out, it just opened more questions, and then I found those questions out. And then I learned that it was fun to learn. Oh my goodness. It just went crazy. We talk about all the time, goal setting in the Burns house was crazy because every time we would set a goal, a 5-year goal, we would hit it in 3 months. And when we set a 3-month goal, it would be done within a week. And when we, right, it was crazy. It's like, how do we're horrible at goal setting. But what it was once you start to learn things and apply what you learn to the next action you do, I think I heard you say, I want to be a better version of myself tomorrow than I am today. Right. And after you start doing this, like, wow, I am better. Last week, I was horrible. But this week, because I've asked 5 questions, I can actually get that 5-year thing done in 2 months.
Yep.
Right. It's like, wow, that was pretty easy because you asked somebody and they told you, or you read something and it was like, well, no, you just put this right here and it's done. Right. So, it's a miracle when you actually open yourself up and expose yourself to learning. And everything else just comes to you.
Yeah. That's the whole concept of, it's a book called The Compound Effect. And it's the whole concept of it where it's like, as you go on, for example, I subscribe to the whole idea of this 1% better every day. So whether it be, in your flexibility or in the knowledge you have about a certain topic or your delivery on camera or the camera work, like we were able to set up a lot quicker today. I'm sure they noticed. I mean, you guys are behind the camera, but you guys probably didn't notice. It was a lot faster this time. The lighting's better. We've got 1% better every day since from last time we recorded to today. So yeah, I feel like that just having that growth mindset is essential to all of the topics that we're talking about today. But I want to shift into a different topic, and that would be it's along the same lines with the travel and the schooling and everything. I wanted to talk to you guys about your sleep schedule, maybe how tired you were, and maybe if you guys could give some words of encouragement for people out there, because I've seen people with just brutal schedules that they're tired, they're ready to quit, and when it hurts, we're ready to quit. And I'm sure that with everything that you guys had to deal with, there were some times where you were ready to quit, or whatever you guys have to share with the people that are struggling right now. I'm sure.
Well, definitely when I was going to school and I had both you and Katie at the time, my schedule and sleep schedule was really difficult at that time because it was just really constant movement of doing something. And I didn't really like to pull back on what I enjoyed to do too. So as Kenny mentioned that he was in men's league in basketball, I was also in women's league in basketball too. So I tried to squeeze that in too. So mornings were like, we get up, really early, 6:30, 6, get you guys ready for school and stuff, and get you guys off to school, get ourselves off to work. You spend your 8-hour day at work, and then you come home. I have to pick up, depending what's on the schedule that day, but normally it involves like picking your brother and yourself up and taking you probably to some other event that you were doing, because we kept you guys busy throughout life, your entire life.
Yeah, that's true.
You've always been doing something, so it was probably some sport or something we were having you do, swim lessons. It was something, and so we take you there, and then as you got older, that involved like taking you guys to that event and then coming home and getting your homework done, making sure you had that homework done, prepping dinner, getting you guys ready for bed, and then at that time, I would go into my homework.
I was gonna say, where's the school part? we're at about like 6 p.m.
Yeah,
we still haven't hit school yet.
We're at like about 9:30, 10 o'clock.
We're late at night by the time I get to the point where I can do my homework, which made it easier for me to help you guys with your homework because I was still engaged in learning. So it wasn't hard for me to just help you guys with homework and stuff. So. So then I'm doing homework late at night, 9, 10 at night, and just, I go to bed at late, around 11 and stuff, and then we're doing it again in the morning, so we're getting maybe, 5-6 hours of sleep, but, if you have a goal, I mean, sometimes it takes that sacrifice of losing sleep. And when you're young like that, you can handle losing a little sleep. Right now, I'm probably not. I wouldn't be able to lose that type of sleep right now. But at that point in my life, I could handle losing a little sleep. And in order to get what you want, there's sacrifices to be made. And at that time, it was sleep.
Yeah.
And so we had the same schedule, right? So from a sleep perspective, I don't sleep much anyway, right? I don't know if it's from the military. A lot of people say it was. I didn't sleep much when I was younger, and then the word much doesn't mean anything. So I get now I get probably 5 hours of sleep, maybe 6. And I get more hours of sleep in the winter than I do in the summer, because if the sun is up, I'm up. I'm not a person who likes to lay in the bed if I'm up. If I'm up, I'm just going to get up, because I'm just going to be fidgeting I got to do something, right? Mm-hmm. And so sleep was just something that I did to get a little rest, right? I mean,
your body told you had to.
Yes, right. And so I would normally go to sleep. The TV would put me to sleep, and then I'd wake up at 5:30. And then, unfortunately for you and your brother, that was the time we had to get up to do our push-ups and sit-ups.
Oh yeah.
And from that, you guys would be woken up through that physical exercise. So by the time you were done with your push-ups and sit-ups, it was an easy morning for everybody else, because you weren't dragging along sleep trying to get ready for school. You were totally wide awake. Your blood was pumping. You were good to go. You guys would be angry because you had to do the physical exercise, but then by the time it was done, you were relieved it was done. So then you guys would go, and we would just get ready. So that was cool. And then in the evenings, what I would do, because I had football practice or basketball practice or track practice. And so we did all of that. So we never wanted to take that time away from you guys, and we wanted to be present. I don't think we actually, how old were the boys the first time we actually had a babysitter and they spent the night away from us?
Yeah, probably Trent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could have been. Yeah, so it could have been KB was 7 or 8 and you were 4. That was the first time.
Right.
Because we weren't around our parents. And we weren't around anybody else, so nobody else took you guys. So for that period of time, every day of your life was with us. It's not a problem, but that's just what it was, right? Mm-hmm. And so you just get used to it, right? And it became a pattern because the plan was the plan, right? So when I had to get ready to go to travel, and when I had to get ready to like, especially my European trips or my Asian trips, when I had to like plan a whole bunch of decks and presentations and stuff. Once we put you guys to bed and Mom was working on her homework, I was working on the decks, and then she would go to sleep, and then I would, clean up the kitchen or whatever, and then I would zonk out, and then at 5:30 we would be back up, right? But you got to stay on your grind. If you want something, you got to work for it, right? It just nothing comes easy.
Yeah.
So as long as you're staying on your grind, you're good. Sleep when actually, I told folks I don't sleep when I die.
Mm. That's interesting. I'm learning a lot hearing this myself, because the general message that I'm getting is, you have to be very intentional with your planning and, know what's going to happen in advance, and be very intentional with where you're placing the kids, whether that be in your own care, in your spouse's care, in someone else's care, like a friend, a family member, mom, dad, just being very intentional about that time and how you're shuffling it around. Because if you have a lot of things to do and, not a lot of time, then, we can't just be kind of fiddling around with hope and luck and, I hope this works out. It's like, no, this is where you're going to be, and we're going to shuffle you off to daycare at this time, and we're going to go do that. Mm-hmm. We got 2 hours to do it while you're at swim practice. And so, yeah, that's interesting to hear, just because, getting older, I could be in that scenario myself, so I'm going to have to use some of this knowledge myself.
I do have to admit that on weekends I did get that extra sleep.
Oh yeah. Well, on the weekends we would go to the pro club, right? I would take you guys to the gym with me, because, well, we had boys, right? So I'm like taking you to the fellas, and then like you guys are running around getting in the damn way all the time, right? And then mom could do whatever she needed to do to get her rest, because I didn't need the rest, right? Yeah. So like, hey, I'll take the boys and you just do whatever you need to do. We would stay gone for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
Right. She could do whatever. And you guys wouldn't know that she's at home chilling, right? You guys we're playing hoop.
Yeah, that's all we really saw. It was mom's not coming, she's asleep.
Right.
Mom, the part that we didn't see was mom just had a rough week where she slept 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
And that's interesting to see, because, you know, as my friends get older, get into, you know, late 20s, 30s, it's like they're exhausted when they're having to take care of their kids and whatnot. So it's kind of interesting to hear about what you guys did with us. The whole idea of, and I'm butchering this, but something along the lines of, you know, my dad was the dumbest guy I knew when I was 16, but he's the smartest guy I knew when I was 30, or something like that. So it's kind of funny to hear from you guys about that. And we got a couple of more topics on here. Just 2. Okay, so the last one of the topic I wanted to introduce was how was Playtime affected, which you guys have answered that a little bit, because that's something that kind of comes up when I'm talking to people that have kids. And, you know, obviously I can't speak on the subject myself, but, you know, they want to play with their kids, they want to be present with their kids, and they feel like they're either shorting them or they're not giving them enough time. The kid's not, you know, happy because if they do go into school and they're used to mom or dad not being at school, they feel shorted for that extra time that they usually get with mom and dad when mom and dad are home. If you guys could speak on that.
So I could talk to that. It's for us and for you two. You guys got enough of us. You guys were sick of us because we were your coaches.
Right.
And so your playtime, like a lot of kids would go to practice, and then they would come back home to their parents. And so then it's like, okay, I was with my coach and all those people, and now I'm back with my parents. And so like we have to have some engaging time. With you especially, and with me being the very soft-spoken, easygoing football coach.
Yeah.
Right.
Always soft-spoken.
By the time we got home.
Always understanding.
You know what I'm saying?
When we couldn't do the push-ups, it's like, it's okay. You can't do the push-ups.
Don't even worry about it.
Just you tried. It's okay.
Right. And, you know, every now and again I say hit the fence, and then, you know. And people don't understand that, but that's okay. So by the time we got home, you guys weren't trying to see us. Just getting as far away as you could. But then on the weekends, as I just mentioned, we would go to the pro club, and then we would play hoop. And so a lot of times, what we would do, and you guys knew the routine, I would play against the men early on until I got just tired as hell. We played for 2 or 3 hours, and then after that, after everybody left and the gym was wide open, then we would play horse or 21 or something. And you guys are like, hey, and then we would bring the cousins, and then we would it was our time.
Yeah.
Right?
By that time, I'm there because
you get there 3 hours later.
Yeah, I get there 3 hours later. I did my step aerobics, you know, and so then I'm like, okay, let me go down there and see what the fellows are doing in the gym. So I'd be down there.
And so we like it's not a program. It wasn't forced. It wasn't planned. It was just like let's our lives were so active, right? Like you guys wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And so there was never a day in your entire life where we planned playtime. That's not even a concept.
Yeah. I guess that's what. See, that's what it is. It's kind of making sense to me now, because that just didn't even make sense when people say like, oh, you know, I'm not getting to play with my kids, because I feel like we always, like you're saying, you guys are always my coach. So like that was already my playtime per se. And then when I got home, I was like, all right, I'm going to do my homework and I'm going to go to bed. And or I was going to play with my brother, or I had friends that I would rather see at the time. So it was just a weird, I don't know, I guess.
I could admit one other thing.
Yeah.
And this happened way, way, way too early for me.
Mm.
Like, people say you shouldn't allow your kids to,
That's not me.
Okay, no, I'm saying your MacBook is.
Oh.
You shouldn't allow your kids to, you shouldn't allow your kids to play video games for a certain amount of time, or like you should only have 2 hours of screen time and all, and like that was foreign to me too, right? And it was foreign to me because we did so much that I felt bad about like overwhelming you. So like, okay, now that you guys are done with your homework, and now that we're done with practice, and now that you did your push-ups and sit-ups in the morning, and now that you've done your all your stuff, you guys go ahead and play, because by the time you guys got in front of those screens, you guys were done. You guys were about to fall asleep, right?
Yeah.
Now, what I'm saying, it happened way too young. When KB was about 10, and when you were about 6, you guys started killing me at all the video games. Like, you guys start. Remember, we used to play Star Fox.
Yeah, Star Fox and Mario
Remember
Kart.
Star Fox, and we had the big Mitsubishi where you could have the 4 screens.
Yeah.
And then you guys started like. You guys would have the video controller, and you guys would have a screen, and then I'd have a screen, and I'm trying to find you guys to shoot you. And then KB would be like, Dad, you gotta do the thing, and then he'd kill me. Bah, 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 bah. And I'm like, how in the hell did you see the thing? Right? You're looking at me, right? And I'm like, where is he? Where? And then it's like, oh, Dad, see that little bunker right there? See if you. And I said, you know what? And so like you guys would say, hey, Dad, you want to play? No.
Until we got Project Gotham Racing, then
I could hang a little bit.
And Mario Kart.
And Mario
Mario
the racing
Kart.
games. But what I'm saying was, like I would want to play video games, but you guys would kill me, right? Like, I mean, it's not even close. I don't even like admitting losing to anything, but hell, I mean, when we played, what's the one game where
Kung Fu Chaos?
No, well, Kung Fu Chaos, that was kind of cool too, but that was killer. I got killed in that. Where the space guy comes out and he's a fighter.
The space guy comes out.
Not the space guy. He's like a commando, and then he goes and he goes through these different worlds and he's killing stuff. And anyway, I can't remember. It's an Xbox game.
I'm gonna remember while I'm watching this.
Yeah, but anyway, and that game, superimpose it right there.
Well, I never played at all.
Well, yeah. Well, but you never played.
That was really bad.
So my last question for you guys, and I think we can wrap up with some closing statements after, was what was our reaction to you guys being in school and traveling, I guess from your perspective, because if I'm being honest with it, I really don't. I don't remember much about, what our reaction is. If I, what the effect has been as far as like people being traumatized by their parents being gone, I really didn't notice much. Like I didn't notice. It was just a normal thing for me that you guys would be working at home, or that you guys would be gone, or that you guys would be, that was just our life. That was kind of our normal. And then it led to, all of this. So.
I don't. So, the question was, how did you?
What was
guys,
our reaction?
What was your reaction? Because we kept you on plan, we keep talking that your schedule didn't change so much that you didn't feel the absence of one or the other. So, since you were still doing the same thing as you're used to doing, your reaction wasn't, okay, where's my mom all the time? She's gone to California. Why is she going to California? To the point that you guys didn't even know I was going in California for those times. So we kept you so much on plan that your reaction wasn't a big reaction to what we were doing, because it just didn't seem any different to you. Yeah.
And as I think about the question, I think about like parenting 101, right? For instance, when a child not necessarily first starts to walk, but first starts to learn how to run, and then they fall.
Right.
As a parent, if you run over there and you make a big you fell, are you okay? The child's going to start crying, right? And like, they're not going to be hurt, most of the time. They're just going to be crying because then you pick them up and you hug them, and then then they fall again and you run over there again, and so they get programmed for that reaction, right? We didn't go pick you up when we were leaving. We didn't change anything. We were like we held it in the same regard as any other day, and so we didn't act differently, which would then have you question what's different about the way that you guys are acting differently. What happened, right? Nothing happened because we didn't act any differently. It's like, hey, all right, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Yep.
Right? And then, all right, cool, bet. Bye. I got to go do homework. And then we would get back. It's like, hey, we're back. And it's like, hey, good, right? So we didn't change the routine. We didn't change the interaction with you when we were leaving versus going to a trip versus going to work versus going to McDonald's.
Yeah, I think I see what you're getting at here with, if you kind of stoop down, you're like, well, I'm sorry, mommy has to go for a week. And, I know this is going to hurt you, but it hurts mommy more than it hurts you.
Right.
And stuff like that. Like you're framing it as a negative thing.
Right.
And then it's going to be viewed as negative, right? But we framed it as, bro, you want to eat?
Yeah.
Okay. Yo, I'm rolling. Be back, right?
We can not eat, or I can go do this trip. It's your choice.
Or we can cancel Christmas, or we don't have to go to Whistler, or right. All these things cannot happen.
We cancel the vacations.
Yes, right. But I mean, we didn't frame it like that either, right?
Yeah.
We just like, hey, today's another day, and I'm going to work. Oh, you're going to work? I know what that means, right? Okay, see you when you get back.
Yeah.
And then, so there was no. Reaction that you had, and quiet as kept. It was the same reaction that you had when we dropped you off at daycare, right? Because everybody's like, oh, they're trying to sneak out, and then they sneak out of daycare, and then when the child realizes that the parent's gone, they're like, where is my? And then they're wailing and crying and like, you left and you didn't, right? When I dropped you guys off at KinderCare, and I said, hey, I'm getting ready to roll.
Yeah.
The first day or two, you're like, yo, I was like, hey, I'm getting ready to go and I'll be back at 5, but I will be back. And then after you saw me get back a couple of times, that was it. We never had another problem, right? Because I didn't try to hide or sneak off or do anything crazy, right? Like, yo, this is what's getting ready to happen, right? Yeah. And you're like, hey, you know what? I don't care if you cry or if you don't cry or if you happy or if you're not happy, this is what's getting ready to happen. And once you got to the point where this is what's getting ready to happen, it became normal. And once it became normal, there was no trauma or reaction or anything like that, right? It was just mom and dad's going to work.
Right. Okay. That's good. This has all been really good. I feel like I've learned just as much as the audience probably has. People with kids, people without kids. And it seems to me like the big things for you guys were scheduling, making sure that we have a plan, the whole idea of it takes a village, and then also not framing things that lead to success as a negative, just framing it as a part of what goes on in a successful household. And the last one that we talked about with the pain of losing some sleep, that's just kind of a reality, and you guys experience that. That people see that you have that mental calculus that happens in your head, like, okay, kids are going to be at school between this time and this time. You do all that math and you're like, okay, there's about 5 hours left for sleep, and it's like that's either a roadblock or that's okay, this is what it's going to be, and you either go through it or you don't. And if you do go through it, then you end up very successful, like my parents have been very successful. And that I guess that's a good synopsis of kind of what we talked about. Unless you guys have any closing remarks or want to embarrass me really quick or something.
No embarrassment. As you were talking, I did think about when we talk about sleep, and that's why there's a motivational speaker. His name is Eric Thomas. Yeah, and he talks about sleep. And when I heard the first video that I heard him on, that he was on, he mentioned about sleep, and that really touched me. Yeah. And so sleep is something we do as humans because we need rest, but success is something we do because we are driven to get to where we want to be, right? And so if you're not that driven, get more sleep.
Yeah.
That's okay, right?
You can have it.
But don't
success.
Don't whine to me when you're not that successful.
Yeah.
Right. Just like that's what it is, right? Life does not allow you to have both all the time. You got to make some decisions. So.
Yeah. Mom, anything?
I don't think I have anything. Well, since we were talking about sleep, I mean, definitely a sacrifice, and definitely have a good story about that with me and Katie and sleep. We'll leave that for another time. You remember the cereal bowl?
Oh my goodness! Yeah. Yes, I do.
I don't. Was I even alive?
No.
No, you weren't.
You weren't.
You weren't.
Do you want that story?
I mean,
that's KB though. Like you're gonna have to deal with KB. Well, it's not really. That's not bad for KB, right?
It's not a bad story.
It's actually bad.
I talked trash about him in the last video, and he actually came and watched the video.
Oh,
I think somebody who watches my. You see, this is what happens. Somebody who watches my videos watched the video and sent him that.
And it was like, hey, yo,
your brother's talking crazy about you. You might want to go check out 25 minutes.
Right.
You want to tell a story, or do you want? Because I found out about this later.
Yeah, and I'm not a very good storyteller, and that's probably why you'll notice that I'm just kind of chilled and sitting back. This guy.
So, no, I got out of the military in '92. Just so happens, also in '92, you were born. Mm-hmm. I had to do the math for you, and then it was like, yep, that fits. But anyway,
wow,
that's another story. And so,
yeah.
But so I get back. Our last year, or my last year in the military, we knew it was my last year and it was time for me to get out. And so we said, okay, we're going to go home because we knew we wanted to come to Washington State. And so we went home early so that Carolyn could apply for some jobs because we didn't want to have a lapse in income. Mm-hmm. And so we went home a year early and said, okay, it's going to take about 6 months. And then we might have a separation of between 4 to 6 months. But that's okay, right? Well, as it turns out, we went home on leave a year early. And by the time we got back to my duty station, which was in Stuttgart, Germany, Carolyn had 3 job offers. She had 3, not, hey, we want to talk to you about a interview, but 3 job offers. And the thing about in government service work, if you don't take an offer, then you lose your military placement priority. Mm-hmm. And so she had to take the job, or when we got back home, she wouldn't get placed higher because I was a returning soldier from overseas.
Okay.
So we had to be separated for my last year in the military. I was in Germany, they were here. Well, during that year, Carolyn gave KB some sleep habits that I didn't normally have because I didn't sleep like that. Mm-hmm. So when I get home,
what do you mean by that?
I got up early, and KB got up early.
Exactly.
And then Carolyn didn't get up early,
right?
And so she tried to make it so KB didn't get up early, but KB still got up early.
He did.
And so here was the way that Carolyn solved that. Is on the weekends, Carolyn would get milk. A bowl of cereal. She'd pour a bowl of the night before
for the cereals.
Pour the cereal in the bowl and put saran wrap over it and put it on the table. And
I do remember that.
Pour a cup of milk and put it in the refrigerator.
Oh, so the cereal was already made with saran wrap. Got you, right?
Right.
And so I got home, and I see this orchestration happening before my eyes. So he's like. 3? He's 3. And he's getting up and making his own breakfast. and I'm like, how long has, like he's 3 and I've been gone a year. So that means he was 2. Right? Years old. I'm like, how long has this been going on? I don't know. And I'm like, wow, you got this boy
making his own
breakfast at 3, right?
Over there smoking a cigar and
I was
the
asleep,
paper.
so we came back to wrapping it back around. That was when I was losing sleep, know, because I had.
You need to get up and make your own breakfast.
Like, yo, check it out. You 3 now? Actually,
why
you tripping? Hey, you 2 now? So you're going to have to start making your own breakfast because moms ain't getting up on Saturday.
So I don't know if you could see it there, but I was kind of like nervously glancing over at my computer, which was doing the recording, because we were running out of battery, and we did end up running out of battery. The last story that my mom was telling was basically about a story how she would, make my brother make his own Cheerios at like age 2. And that's one thing that is actually of note, and I wanted to talk about in the outro, and that is that our parents demanded independence of us when they had a lot of things to do, and they were really busy, and they were really tired. They demanded a lot of independence out of us. We had to make our own food for a lot of the times. We had to, just handle ourselves. We had to entertain ourselves. They would put us in front of, games. They would basically tell us to entertain yourself, feed yourself, and, they would be around to play with us, obviously. But anyways, I hope you guys got some value out of this, and I hope that I can see you guys in the next video. Hit the like button if you have the heart to do it, for sharing all of these family stories. So anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Links below if you want to get some free money. And that's it. Seriously, that's it, guys.